Imagine you get done with work around 5:30 p.m. and you're staying around the house for the rest of the night, but there's still a short list of things you have to do. You got to figure out what to have for dinner, you got to grab that workout, was supposed to be this morning, one more work task to do, and then finally, you got to catch up on last week's Loki episode. Now, what if I told you there was a pizza recipe, and a damn good one at that can fit into this schedule? This is the pan pizza that I make from scratch at least once a week, no special equipment, no special oven. As long as I have some tomatoes and some mozzarella cheese, we are green light to go because I always have the stuff to make the dough in my pantry. So let's begin at 5:30 p.m. To start, set a bowl over a scale and add 200 grams of bread flour, 50 grams of whole wheat flour, 6 grams of salt, 4 grams of yeast, and 175 grams of warm water before mixing the dough with your hands for a couple of minutes. You just want to mix the dough until there's no dry flour in the bowl, but it's still a pretty sticky mass. Now, instead of continuing to knead, we're just going to toss another bowl over the top and let this rest for about 15 or 20 minutes, during which that dough will start to hydrate. Now, before we have some free time, we have to start the sauce, and I did not plan this well, but I realized when I went to my cabinet that I had a missing spot where the can of tomatoes normally are, pretty inconvenient, so I decided to quickly run to the farmer's market. Alright, so now on the walk to the farmer's market, and actually did not plan for this to happen, but kind of glad it did, just because it's a fairly decent representation of when I make this pizza. I literally just need tomatoes. I thought I ordered some the other day, but I guess I either forgot to add them to the cart or they forgot when they delivered them. So let's go secure some tomatoes and then head back to the apartment. With the fresh tomatoes secured, I quickly cut them up into large chunks and then added 800 grams or about 28 ounces of them into a saucepan, along with 15 grams of butter, 15 grams of olive oil, 3 smashed cloves of garlic, a fourth of an onion, and a nice big pinch of salt. Now just give this a shake, and we're going to toss this on the stove on the lowest heat with a lid over the top and let that cook down for about 20 minutes. Now, if I had the tomatoes already, it would be about 5:40 p.m. at the latest right now, and during this break, I took 15 minutes to dump footage from an earlier video and do a bit of computer work. Then, at around 6 p.m., the dough should have relaxed a bunch, and now using your hands, we're going to stretch this up and knead the dough in the bowl for about 5 minutes until it's looking like a tight dough ball, and it passes that window pane test. Once that gluten has developed, we're going to let this rise for another 30 minutes and also give that tomato sauce a stir. And at this point, I like to take the lid off for the remaining cook time so some of that excess water evaporates off. Now it should be around 6:05 p.m. and it's workout time for me, so a quick trip to the weight room for rowing and some back and leg exercises. Nothing crazy, just a solid 25-minute workout. At 6:30 p.m. I turn the tomato sauce off and slice up some basil to stir into before adding this to a deli container and hitting it with the immersion blender. Once blended, adjust the seasoning to taste as you see fit, and I should have let this cook down a little bit longer. Those fresh tomatoes had more water content in them. But again, this is way more than you'll need for just pizza, so you can mix this with pasta and then you have dinner for tomorrow night covered too. It's kind of a win-win. Now back at our dough, get out a Detroit-style pizza pan or just a baking sheet and drizzle in 15 grams of oil to lightly coat the bottom. Then toss in that risen dough, and you're going to stretch it out as far as you can before it starts to spring back. We're going to let this rest before stretching it to the pan the rest of the way. Lastly, preheat the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you have another 20 to 30 minutes to kill, so I'm going to catch up on the Loki episode I missed last week, and why not have a little pre-dinner glass of wine from today's sponsor, Bright Cellars. Bright Cellars is a monthly wine subscription that matches you with wine you'll love and delivers it right to your door. All you have to do is take a simple 7-question quiz, and Bright Cellars will gather the preferences and send you wines personally matched to you. What I love about Bright Cellars is they send me wine I wouldn't have normally tried, and plus, I'm actually learning about the wines I like and don't like, as each box comes with wine education cards for each bottle that outlines the tasting notes, suggested pairings, and serving temperature and the origin, making you feel somewhat like a sommelier, I guess. In my most recent box, I received 3 reds and a white based on my matches, and after reading that wine education card, I decided to bust out Bush Telly to sip on, which is a medium-bodied red that pairs with party food like our pizza. So head to the link in the description to take advantage of 60% off your first 4-bottle Bright Cellars box, take that wine quiz, and get some great wine to sip on with your pizza this week. Also, I should note, while watching Loki and sipping on that wine, I did shred up some fresh mozzarella, about 175 grams or 6 ounces. And speaking of, it is now 7 p.m. and we are in the home stretch, people. By this time, the dough should have relaxed enough to easily stretch to the edges of the pan, and let's top it. We're going Detroit red top style, so I minced some Calabrian chilies and added those to the bottom, as well as a sprinkle of oregano. Next, I hit it with 6 ounces or 170 grams of mozzarella cheese and put it all the way to the edge of the pan so it crisps up really nicely. And as a bonus, that cheese will melt right into those spices we placed underneath. Highly recommend this tactic. Lastly, hit it with the sauce in 3 strips over the top, and obviously feel free to add whatever else you want. This is a great way to use up leftover veggies or proteins you may have in the fridge. Once topped up, toss the pizza in the oven and bake for about 20 minutes until the crust is crispy and brown on bottom, as well as that cheese is melty and bubbly. I like to slide the cooked pizza onto a cooling rack for about 5 minutes to let that molten cheese cool a bit. And then before slicing, I add a small grating of Parm cheese over the top and slice that into 8 pieces. 4 slices, or half of the pizza, which is typically what I eat, comes in at 840 calories and 37 grams of protein, which is actually pretty solid for this pizza. We got that work in anyway while we made it, but this is the pizza you have to make this week. Cheesy, crunchy, absolutely delicious. Alright everybody, so this is the pizza that I literally make at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. It's just so good, it's so simple. You can fit it into whatever you got going on that night. So make the pizza. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. Thanks again to Bright Cellars for giving us some wine to drink along with it. That's going to wrap it up for me in this one. Catch you in the next one. Peace, y'all.